Fabulous, thank you. We've got time for questions before we break for coffee, and this is a bit of pressure on you lot now because let's assume you're in a really good rapport with these guys. So these questions have got to up the tension just a little bit. We've got some roving mics. Jerry and Jason have got mics. Rachel's got a mic. What's in people's heads? Who's got a question? Yes, we're right the opposite end of the room to where the mic's on. He's on his way to you. If you, I'd be grateful if you could just stand up, tell us who you are, and then there's a mic behind you now. So there we go.
Probably badly in that. The first thing I heard you said, and I was a bit worried about, we need to meet the needs of the stakeholders, and we don't work with the issues brought in by the person who comes into the room to us, but the people who send them to us. Now, I was a bit concerned about that. I mean, can you explain that to me?
Yes, we're not saying ignore the needs of the person that comes into the room. We're just saying that they are one of the stakeholders. They are a very important stakeholder. But as a coach, you are contracting with other stakeholders to deliver wider goals. That would be my understanding in an organizational context. So one of the phrases that we use is that the coach needs to be the voice of the unrepresented stakeholders in the room. And that coaches playing that role and being the guardians of the system rather than necessarily just purely guardians of the individual interests is one of the challenges that we need to understand better and need to develop the skills to do. Yeah. Anything to add?
We started this thinking a number of years ago when the time of the banking crisis, and we were thinking, well, where were all the coaches when the banks went down? That was the title of our first book. Thank you. But we think, yeah, what happens in that room? It can be very, very me orientated, and that is good. That is okay in terms of developing that individual. But most of the work that John and I do is developing an individual within an organisational context and trying to avoid individual decisions that take place in that room that have huge knock-on effects, for example, to the banking system and to the society and to the global economy. So it may sound ridiculous, but what happens in that room can have huge effects if we just focus purely on that me. It's not about breaking confidence, it's not about breaching a contract, it is just making sure that we look after those absent stakeholders as well as an individual.
Okay, thank you. Good question. I'm going to take one.
Hi, my name's Pauline Farrell and I'm Head of Human Resources in a hospital trust. And in my role I deal with a lot of complex interpersonal issues, and I just wondered if you had any tips on coaching people who have no insight into their own behaviour.
John,
that's one for you, John.
Yeah, well,
how long have you got, John?
Well, the thing that's just zapped into my mind with that is don't coach anybody who doesn't want to be coached. That's something that was said to me very early on in my coaching, and it's served the test of time. Work with the people who are the open doors. Go where that energy is. If you believe in systems thinking and you work with those people, eventually they will influence other people in the system. So your time and energy is too precious to waste, to be blunt.
Great, thanks. One more.
My name's Anna Sutherall, and I work for Anglia Support Partnership in the NHS.
Hello.
Hi, Dave. Hi. My experience of coaching has been that there are a lot of very lonely, very stressed, very senior leaders out there who are leading in new organizations. And quite frankly, they're really afraid. And what they need is someone to go to, a coach, who can help them unpack what's going on for them so that they can lead the organization. They're desperately wanting to make improvements in the system. But they're having problems because they're very unsupported.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Anna. Can you respond to that?
Quite right, exactly. And it's in the NHS, it's in private sector organisations that we work in as well. And it's the role of the coach to provide that support and provide that sounding board in a safe environment, but also to push, to make that change, to make that challenge, but still with the support. So, support, challenge, both hands used appropriately.
We're going to take two more. There's been two hands that have been up fairly early on. So gentleman over to it and then lady in the centre.
Thank you. My name is Noel Gavin. I work in the NHS also. I found your talk very exciting. I class myself as an amateur coach learning, and I've been reluctant to challenge. Now, you said this is your fourth book. Is it necessary? Second, sorry.
Yeah.
Is it necessarily the first one, or can I just skip to the second one?
Yeah, the honest answer to that is skip to the second one. Because really, the first book, as Ian mentioned, Where Were All the Coaches When the Banks Went Down, was actually our reaction to that particular incident. This second book is a broader view of it. It's a more mature view of it, to be frank, and we've gone into it in much more detail, and we've had our ideas tested by people like yourselves, and in some areas they've changed. So definitely, and I'm great that you're excited, and it's courage. I think Leslie mentioned the word courage earlier, and that sometimes you're in a room and you say something like she did, and people boo. How many people have got the courage to do that? But I think that's where the edge is a lot of the time for courage in coaching, and how we get the courage out of us so that we inspire other people to do the same.
Great, thanks. Good question. Good plug for the book as well. I think John planted you in the audience earlier, so I need to ask this. Final question.
Is this on here? Catherine Loftus from NHS Central Lancashire and the Northwest Leadership Academy. You mentioned coaches to Olympian athletes, and I just wondered whether there was something that you'd seen or heard that really inspired you, something that we can all take away perhaps with us.
I do have one, Ian, if I can jump in. On Monday we were with an athlete called Adam Whitehead, who actually isn't competing in the Olympics, but he's a European gold medalist from the past. And one of the things his coach said to him, and I was listening to this, and it really inspired me, and I thought, yeah, that's something maybe I could do. His coach sat him down after the Sydney Olympics when he'd failed and said, I want you to make a list of all the people around you. And he said, then I want you to put two columns, and at the top of one column you put the word drain, and on the other column put the word radiator. And he said, I want you to put all those people under those headings, and I want you to think about how many people around you are radiators and how many people are drains. How can you convert the drains into radiators, and at what point in the pursuit of your courageous goal, may you need to also conclude that in the system's interest, that there are some people who might not be part of that undertaking with you. Ian, anything from
I think
you?
that's a good summary, John.
Okay, John and Ian. Thank you.